What's good? What's going on, man? And you already know who this is. We're coming back at it again at
Forex is
and anyway. Um, so I attempted to do this video last night, and I'm not gonna cap. I was so tired to the point that I spent about 30 minutes going in circles. To when I realized that I was going in circles, I had to cut the video. So that video is not being recorded anymore. I deleted it and we're redoing the video. So today is April 23rd. It is a Wednesday. I usually like to do the videos on Tuesday, but sometimes if I don't get around to doing it, then I'll be able to do it on Wednesdays. And honestly, if I could do it like Sundays would be better, but things should be changing. I'll be getting a computer soon. So um time being. And I said that like I don't have a computer. I have a computer. This is a computer, but it's not my computer. So with that being said, make sure you subscribe, comment, like, just show some support. Okay. You may not know what you're doing. You may not know exactly what you're looking at for us like trading, but I appreciate you for coming in. I've been on this journey for about 5 years now, but in total, I want to say my last 2 years, I have learned a lot. My last 2 years, I have seen growth within myself. The 3 years prior to that, I went through a lot of ups, a lot of downs, losses, big wins, and other things. So, if you want to if you want to hear about that experience, you can go to our Forex is Stupid podcast and listen to my experience of how I got into foreign exchange and all that. But this doesn't just work with just foreign exchange. It works with stocks. It works with cryptos, which is crypto seems to be the thing now. Not gonna cap. Stocks was the thing and last year, and then cryptos was I'm not cryptos. Foreign exchange was the thing back in 2020, 2019, 2020, 2021 and some in 2022. So I am not surprised that people are going through each aspect of this whole financial market and making it seem like one is better than the other. Once you learn how to read the market, you can diversify your portfolio and have some foreign exchange, have some stocks over here, have some cryptos over here, or you just want to totally invest into cryptos, you can totally invest into stocks or whatever. It's just different aspects of the financial market. So I we had one over Nas 100. We're gonna start with that going down the line, but I accidentally delete the entry point. So we're gonna go down and explain this. I'll show you where the entry point is, and then where our green line is. We did mark that as the trade did take profit. So the candlestick that it happened on would be this particular candlestick, but for right now we're gonna move it back so you can see clearly for the candlestick. So we started off on the week because we already marked the month. So the month is the purple. We have the green, which is the weekly, and then we also have the daily. I think this is the daily. Yeah, the daily in orange. So we're gonna drop down to the time frames. We did the weekly, which is the green. Some things I want to point out is that price uh had broke and closed below the previous pivot, below the pivot point on the weekly time frame, but it has not broken below the pivot point on the the monthly time frame. On the monthly time frame, it's still showing a very strong buy. But as you can see on the weekly, we have fallen below the pivot point. On the day time frame, we has fallen well below the pivot point, and which is well, yeah, we're falling below the pivot point. The 4 hour, we have fallen below the pivot points. As you can see, we fell below the pivot points, broke the trend line, fell below the pivot point, came back above the pivot point, which is a retesting these areas, and then we're looking for price to go back into breaking below this pivot point, and then we'll be looking for a sell. So anyway, we'll talk more about that. So we're looking at the 4 hour, then you look at the 1 hour. We have not quite dropped back below the pivot point. So we'll be looking at that. So for right now, we're going to go back to the daily time frame, which is we're day traders, so we can trade for days. I like to mark off the week because if I'm trading for a whole week, even if I don't show up on a Tuesday on my chart doesn't move on a Tuesday, I have another opportunity the next day. All right. I love this because within a whole week, if my analysis doesn't happen within that whole week, it doesn't move, it doesn't do anything, it doesn't break below a previous high, doesn't break below a previous low, then we kind of just wait for the market to do what it's going to do. So we'll be able to move on. So I actually love this part of it. So we're on the day time frame. Let me pull out my magnifying glass. So things I want to point out again, we broke below the that trend line. That trend line was significant on all time frames. So we have the previous weekly high, the previous weekly close, the previous weekly open, and the previous weekly low, which is the green. Purple is the monthly. So we're falling below the monthly low. We're falling below, well, we broke and closed below the previous weekly low, right? And then when price was broke the trend line the first time, let me see where my arrow was at. Here. Well, all right. So when price originally, wait, can y'all see? I don't feel like you can see this blue. Let's just make it thicker than a Snicker, and then we're gonna make it a lighter blue. Yeah. So, all right. As you can see, when this candlestick here on March 28th, 2025 broke, this gave us some like, hey, okay, in the past, price has broken below that candlestick, but it popped back into it. So it didn't break below, and then another open and close candlestick which was a selling candlestick closed below it. It didn't happen like that. But in this one it did. So price not only breaks below the trend line, close below the trend line, the next candlestick, which is Monday, which is on a Monday, March 31st, 2025, price opened a little bit above the closing and low of that previous candlestick, and then it turned around, broke the low of the candlestick, creating its own close and its own low. And as you can see, this low start to touch into the previous month low. So as price continues to go back and forth, it does what? It breaks into, for the downside, the previous weekly low, as well as the previous monthly low. So this candle not only went into the previous weekly high, I'm sorry, price broke into the previous weekly high, but then it also turned and broke into the previous monthly low. All right, so this is the candle that we was working off of. Where'd it go? For that week. Wait, let me try to find my candle because that was the high. Here you go. So pulling back on the week. Uh, as you can see, the candle that we was working off of, because we're on the week, is this one. And this was March 14th, April 14th, which was last Monday, 2025. So last week we was working on uh this candle to see this candle. So when we marked up this candle last week, uh what did I say? Nothing about this candle. I don't know what I got that from. But when you mark up the previous high for this previous week and the previous low for this previous open and close, we want to see if price either going to break below or above. But before you even get to that for the week, you want to get to it for the day. So now we got that out the way. We're looking at the day, and price broke into previous weekly low, pull back to retest. And if you look to see where your previous high was, this is previous high to previous low, price pulled back, creating a higher low, right? Overall, creating a higher low because it did not go back to this high here, which is up there by the weekly, and then it pushed into the previous monthly low. Price sorry. Price came in for the previous weekly low and then bounced back up to test that previous month low, but it didn't close above it. All right. So for the day, we're working off this candlestick right here. And we say if price break above the previous high, we would buy, and price break above the previous low, we would sell. So um when we got into we before I get to it, we actually sold this candle because we was working off the candle here. You see this is the previous weekly close, previous weekly open, and then boom, price fell, and this candle here, where the daily high is, boom, is where we sold it at. I'm so mad that I actually deleted that because once we made this move in here, price turned around, boom, fell. It pulled back up to retest the area it just came out of. So we're gonna remark this, and what I'm gonna do, I have updated my subscription, so moving forward, we'll be able to go back and see these certain movements. I have to remember to when I'm doing things, I have to remember to lock my chart like now because I be forgetting and then I delete it by accident and then I have to come back and try to teach it. Anyway, so we're going to look at we'll go back to the weekly when and we're going to delete everything from the weekly. Now, mind you, price had we profit on that trade. Um and you want to see what the exact point is, just go to the last episode. And it's crazy because I'll actually be dropping it if I haven't. If you don't find it for April 14th, then I will be dropping it soon. But I should have dropped it already by now, by the time you see this video. Um, so I'm just deleting everything from my week and my daily. Um, oh, that was pitiful. I was going to say I'm not for sure what that line was for, and I'm gonna see if I want to get in for now 100. Honestly, the trade probably not taken to what I want. Cause yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to speak beforehand because it could have did what I wanted beforehand. Um, again, this is a Wednesday, so trades do move on these days. So I want you guys keep that in mind. Um, previous weekly high. Okay, and then boom. All right. Oh, just in case you didn't know, I would try to do 30-minute marks, but because I want you guys to get it, I decided I'm going to do continue to do the hours so that you guys could see me mark this up over and 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 over. So we're gonna start off on our week, and this will be our week. So the week that we're going to look at is April 14th because the week that we are in, we do not want to trade that week. All right. So boom, we're gonna pull this back a little bit. And we're going to mark the week before, which is the previous week. All right. All right. As you know, you have to mark the high. I mean, the opening and the closing, my bad. You have to mark the opening and the closing. And then you have to mark the the high and the low. I don't know why I'm having a brain fart, but uh it's still early, right? So you have the high and then you have the low. The low. Right? And a lot of the markets I didn't think I deleted anything yesterday besides the the actual traded stuff. So yeah, let's mark this. We have previous weekly high, previous weekly close, I mean low, hold on. All right, whatever. Previous weekly open, previous weekly close, and actually the open is at the top since we're buying and it closes at the bottom. That is an innocent mistake. Um, I don't know about that part. Um, oh, okay. So you have the previous weekly low, previous weekly close, previous weekly low, previous weekly high. Now we're gonna move down into the day, and we're on today, which is April 23rd. We started this week on the 23rd, on 19th, so 15, excuse me, 16, 17, 18. Oh, well. Anyway, oh, oh, okay. Well, um, this candle, previous candles was yesterday, the 22nd, and this the candle that we're in. So we're gonna work off the candle beforehand, even though we're on Wednesday, because that's what I'm looking at the market at the moment in. That makes sense? Nope. Okay. So this is the candle. This is the candle we in. So we're marking the opening, we're marking the closing, we're marking high and low. Hold on. All right. So now we have the previous daily open, previous daily close. All right. So now we have the previous daily open, the previous daily close. We're gonna do the previous daily high and the previous daily low. And we're gonna go with that. Turn it blue. And the previous daily low. All right. So in order for us to buy or sell, we got to one thing I want to point out before I said it. The previous, this is the wait, this is on the day. So let's go down to the 4, and then I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. We're back at it's the 4, we hit the 1. Okay. So I think price slowing down on momentum. Um, there was a nice Trend line. Uh, uh, right about here. Mm, and then two would be one right there. There. Boom. I'm like thinking, hmm, like how I want to make this solid. Okay, so I want to make sure I was touching the okay more than one time and I wasn't breaking. So some traders will mark it like this and then be like, ah, that's not a solid trend line. But long as this is not cutting the bodies of the candle, then it's a solid trend line. And then it is on 4 and the 1. That's what it looks like on the 1 hour. Uh, and then if you want to count those touch points, we're gonna you're gonna use like this one touch, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, right, 10, 11, and then the 12 price break above. It does a breakout in this area right here. Um, price break up to the upside. Boom. And we're above the pivot levels. And like I said, we were selling at some point in time. And so if we look back, we actually have an even stronger trend line on a higher time frame. And I don't want to like squeeze this to where it's nothing, right? So this is going here. We're gonna make it go there. Boom. Okay. So price sales, previous high, previous low. Create a higher low, followed by a lower low. Price pull back up to retest, and then it sells back down. All right. So this is um Nas 100. So my thoughts with Nas 100, honestly, is price is already broken. The previous weekly close, previous weekly open, previous daily close, previous daily open, and we already went up to the previous weekly high, which is probably also the broke above the previous daily high. So that's where that buy should have happened. Daily four. I'm trying to figure it out. So I still personally think it's a sale. Even though we have more selling pressure here, and then price pull back to retest the area that it broke out of. So this would be overall high and a low. This and what I want you to see here is um price created this high and then price came down to that low. Right? Price pulled back, creating a higher low, followed by a lower low, followed by a higher low, followed by even lower low. Price pulled back, retested, and it's showing that price is going outside of it, but it's not breaking the weekly high. It has not broken the weekly high yet. Once it came into this area, and then my question is, all right, I don't know, but I I want to say something, but this is my observation. All right. My thought process is I think this is still could possibly be selling. Um, but on the 1 hour, like I said, we saw that price broke above. If we are using our pivot points, uh price is like was selling below, pull back to retest, and then it didn't break below. Right, we're back in here. I think price did this little sell. If it's going to do another sell, I think it's going to push up to this daily high, and then boom. I don't think it's going to get above the weekly high because it didn't before. This would be the overall high and the overall low, right? But miniature high, low, the next high, higher, low, fire, low, low, right? So, so low. Um, so yeah, that's what I feel like. I see more of another sale, but I would want price to break out of going a direction or something forward. Cause it's yeah, so I think price like is buying up and is pulling back to my previous. Now price break my previous weekly high and my orange, which is be um well yeah, my previous weekly high and my blue, which is my previous daily. I mean no, let's do this purple. Where is this blue or purple? Oh, that's why I was confused. God. So price went back into my previous monthly low and then it sold down. So when price come back into the previous weekly close and then dropping into the previous daily high, then I would look for some selling opportunity. But I would me personally, I want price to break below the previous daily open down to the previous daily low, and it would break that pivot point, and I'll like you can get an opportunity. You can get in for opportunity for a bigger sale if you just wait. So um I like what price is doing, so we're gonna type this. Uh has a nice trade. I feel like price is on a strong beginning sale. Um right bro, previous daily high on the pullback are still showing strong selling pressure. Uh, didn't show any selling pressure. All right, so it's a nice trade. Feels like price is on a strong beginning sale. Price broke on the previous daily high on the pullback, and still price is still showing strong selling pressure. So we just want price to break below the previous to come back in between the this is the week come back into the previous weekly close, falling below the previous daily low. So I want price to come back into the previous daily low overall. Because like I said, it can come back up to here. Price can kind of pull back up to here and retest because this is previous overall high. But I don't necessarily think it's gonna do that because it lost pressure here. So it was higher, higher, higher. You know what I'm saying? Even though it broke out of that, it's still lower. So I like a cap. I'm a little confused about this one, so I would rather stay on this side. Um, so waiting for price to like uh I'm trying I'm trying to figure out how I say this. I don't know. So Nice trade. Feel like price is on a strong beginning sale. Price broke previous daily high on a pullback, still showing strong selling pressure. Waiting for price to come back to previous daily low and break below pivot point. All right. So if price break below that previous daily low, you can look to sell. All right. We'll find a nice 3-to-1. But I don't know. That's what my gut's saying because I don't think this trade necessarily um has to be buying. I feel like it has solidified a turn for this sale. So that's what I got for Nas 100. And I'm not looking to get into that trade this week. So we're going to move on to gold. All right, so before we get into marking gold up, let's go over the notes from before. Bear with me because I know I'll be taking a pause like this, you know, and it be looking like I'm not paying attention, but I am. Okay, so 1 second. All right. Sorry about that. I needed water. All right. So price broke. Well, we're gonna read the notes. Price broke. Previous daily high. Looking for a buying opportunity. Price is above pivot point on all time frames, and the volume shows buying pressure on the weekly, the daily, the 4 hour, and the 1 hour time frame. So with that being said, we see where price broke previous daily high. Let's drop down and see if price actually broke that previous daily high. Okay, we're gonna wind out our chart too. I'm trying to figure this out. So if you see me pause like this, I'm not asleep. I'm just reading so hard, like I am. It just look like it. So, um, as you can see, price broke above the previous daily high. So we wanted to look for buying opportunity. You saw where we got into the trade as well. We end up on uh Previous week close. We in previous daily high. We got in on the next candlestick, so it will be somewhere right here. And then as you can see, price enter us into the trade and it take profit. So that's great, right? Amazing when you take profit. You see that this strategy works if you apply it, if you believe in yourself, it works. Now, I will say the worst thing about trading is the consistency that you have to put in. You have to show up for yourself every day. There are times where life and family life and just things in general take over. But if you put in your brain to show up every day, then we're gonna have a lot of growth. And so that's what these videos are for. You'll find a bunch of gurus out there telling you how to do it, but they're always going to leave out the meat potatoes. The meat and potatoes is you. I'm going to show you all how I look at the market. I'm showing you my strategies. I'm showing you my feelings, my emotions, how I deal and face with my emotions. I am sharing you my technique, the things that I like to use, but there's nothing better than finding out what works for you. So as good as it sounds to take on all these educators, if you don't know that the main goal at the end of the day is find out what works for you and what don't, so you can be able to build a solid plan, then it is really not going to work out the way you want it to. Like it's not. So, all in all, that's what we're going to run into. So we're going to go over these last three trades, and then we'll end it. Like I said, I started to like just pause and like not do them at all. And then I also started to like, well, I'll just do this on the video. Nah, we're just gonna keep going straight. So if it lasts from 30 minutes to an hour, it lasts from 30 minutes to an hour. And I know Nas 100 tends to be the trade that we stay on forever. So I'm gonna be right back. I'm going to get some water from my water bottle, and then we're going to finish this. All right, so last thing we was on. Oh, So with this trade, as we can see, we profit on this trade. So we're going to put a green vertical line where the trade took profit at on this candle. Excuse me. So on Monday, April 21st, that trade took profit. Um, so and then boom, it pulled back to retest the previous daily high. Um, I'm not for sure what this. Oh, the gray area is previous week open, previous weekly close. So this is the previous daily high here and the previous weekly high. So price broke above the daily high and the weekly high and pulled back to retest it. And we're way above the pivot points. And then as you said, the volume shows buying pressure. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna delete the the week and the day because it's a new week, and then we're going to move into the trade for this week. If I see it, we're gonna take it. If I don't, hey, you already know. I don't take it. It don't make sense. Now my goal is to take one trade out the week. If I get two, all right, I'm not trading no more that week. All right, so your goal should be that too, you know. And uh yeah. So let's go to the week, and then we're going to line out the chart a little bit, and we're going to delete the previous week, and then we're going to delete the previous day. So the purple is the previous month. And so we're still in this month, April. So we're not going to um we're not going to delete it, the purple. But everything else, the gray and then the red must go. All right. So go down to the day and then boom, 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 boom. We're gonna delete because I accidentally deleted the trade itself so you can see it. Uh, delete, delete, delete. All right, so now we got the previous weekly and the previous day deleted. Let's mark it up. So we're gonna go back to the previous week, and you already know how we do on this one. All right, so we don't work off the week that we're in. We work off the week that we was previously in, which be this candlestick. Boom. It's gonna be blue. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna get a little closer to the chart for this. So I'll be watching you for a minute. Look at me. Y'all don't know about that. But anyway, all right. And then we're gonna add the things. This will be the previous weekly open. And then which I'm probably gonna have to duplicate. Just clone. And then we're gonna mark this up here. Boom. We're gonna mark that as the previous weekly close. All right. And then there's no low for this previous weekly. So we're gonna look for a high. And as you see, there's a high point for this previous weekly high. So boom. And then we got green. Again, there's no low. So this, when we pull back on the candles, well, on the chart, not just the candles. That's what we have. All right. We have the previous monthly high here. We have the previously, and I'm gonna actually put those beside each other so we can see it. So the previous weekly open, and then I'm gonna notate this as the previous weekly close. All right, so we got the previous weekly open, the previous weekly close, and the previous weekly high. So we're gonna drop down to the day time frame and we're going to mark that candle. All right. And then afterwards we'll move this over. So today is what we in, which is April 20th. Is it the 23rd? April 23rd. So since we're trading off this candle, we're working off April 23rd. I'm going to go back to April 22nd. All right, so this is where we were, and then we're gonna mark that. And I think I'll let that be read. Give me a second. Let me answer this call from my lovely wife. 1 second. All right. Again, I apologize. Family duty calls. All right, let's get it before any more calls come through. All right, so we're marking the candlestick for the 23rd, 22nd, the 22nd. We're doing an opening and the closing first. So I just did the closing. I'm marking the opening, and then we're going to mark the high. I don't see a low. Even down here. Wait, is that a wick? No, there's no wick. Okay. So these are bullish candles, which are like good signals of strong bullish momentum. So boom. Wait, what is going on? Oh, I was going to say, all right, so we're gonna mark this. Got the previous daily high, no low. And it was like that the previous weekly had a high, but I don't think it had a low, so that's good. That just shows you different signs. Previous daily open, it just shows you like strong momentum of who. So if there's a candlestick like that. Previous daily open, and then the previous close. All right, so now our goal is to see if the price breaks the previous daily high, or in this case, fall below the previous daily open. And as you can see, price does fall back to the previous daily open, and then it pulls all the way back to our previous weekly close. Um, so um, let me go back. I think this should be my blue. I think I made it a different, yeah. Because I'm like, wait, this is supposed to be blue. Makes sense. So price came back down to my previous weekly close. We have a previous weekly high, but if price continues to fall, we can look for it to come back um down to test the previous weekly open. This is the previous monthly low. So let's just see what we're doing right now. So we're above this candle. Um, and let's see. Let's continue to go down the chart. All right, so we're still above the pivot point on the 4-hour time frame. We're a little bit below the previous daily open. Um, I'm thinking this is like a slight pullback for a retest, but I'll put out some more things as we continue to go down. Mind you, keep in mind, I haven't looked at this. I attempted to look at it last night, told you recording, and it did not go well. So when I come, I'm just as open-minded. My brain is going, everything is going at 1,000 miles. I have to like tone it down and figure out what I specifically think while being on here with y'all in real time. So yeah, so price came all the way down, retesting the previous weekly close, and it did not fall below the previous weekly close or open or fall below and close below the previous weekly close on the 1 hour. It did on the 4 hour. No, it did not do it on the 4 hours. So even though it closed below the previous daily open, it did not close below the previous weekly close. So we're still above the pivot point. Um, Same for the day. the 1 hour price came down, broke below the previous daily open, retesting the previous weekly close, but it did not break below the previous weekly close and was still above the pivot points for the day. For the 1 hour. So we're above the pivot points for the 1 hour. We're above the pivot points on the 4 hour. On the day, we are above the pivot points. For the I think week, we are above the pivot points, and I think overall for the month, we are above the pivot points. Now, we see this has some strong buying momentum. We're going to continue to drop down on these time frames. Well, we're going to go back to the day. All right, so it seems to be like a slight small pullback. So let me point out some things that I saw. Now, if price goes as it does, you see it pull back into the previous weekly high. If price does drop below the previous weekly, I think what's that, the open, the close, the previous weekly close, price break below the previous weekly close, what I am expecting to happen, all right? Price break below, if it does pull back here, where's my, all right. All right, so if price continue to fall and break below this pivot point, as well as the previous weekly close, we can look to sell all the way down to this previous monthly low. All right, and then you'll go into like retesting the previous weekly open, and this could be a very good sign of a switch of a trend for the downside, right? Um, we're currently buying. Price continues to break structure. Um, break of structure goes in the way of like, if price is buying, we want price to break the structure by breaking the highs. If price is selling, then we want price to break the structure by breaking the lows. And it'll look something like this, just not in the cleanest way all the time, but it looks something like this. So price is buying, pull it back, price is buying, and you see it broke structure there. Price pull back, price break structure there. All right, price break structure. And if price doesn't continue to break structure, we want price to do this. Disrespect structure, retest, creating what? A new switching the trend, depending on the overall. All right, so break a structure, price made a high, and then price made another high, so it broke structure. Break a structure right here to here, and then the next break structure was from here to there, and then we had a final push to a break of structure here. Now, once price break below, where it go? This high, this is a high. Once price break below that previous low and that previous high, right? So price starts to break it to this previous high. This could be considered a pullback from here to this, to the previous high. All right. It will be kind of like we got three type of pullback. You have a shallow pullback, you have a deep pullback, you have a medium pullback. All right. So this could be essential if price pullback to here, kind of like I want to say, I would say like price don't pull back all the way there. I call it a shallow pullback, like a medium pullback for me is when price come all the way back to in this area here, too close to the previous low. And then you can also consider a pullback all the way to the previous low itself, right? So that'd be a deep pullback, but it doesn't break it. All right, boom. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. So when price breaks the previous low, come back, creating its own low, breaking the lows, and then create a new higher low, then this is called a change of character. CHCH. CHOCH, a change of character. And it goes the same way for the downside, okay? So give me a second. We're going to delete this, and I'll explain that more when I'll do a lesson on it, and I explain more, like break of structure and change of character. What does that mean and what it look like on the chart? Um, so prices breaking structure from previous high, previous low. Even though this is previous high to a previous low, all right. Price broke structure and it made another previous high, previous low. But I'm going straight like this. This is the day, so I like to look at the day, previous highs, previous low. Um, so previous high, previous low, previous high, previous low. So 4 to the 1. If price pull continues to pull back, breaks below the pivot point, and break below this previous weekly, I think what is close, the previous weekly close. Yeah. Then we'll look to sell all the way down to at least the previous weekly open and breaking back into the previous monthly high. All right. I was straight to that point. So should we necessarily get in? Um, Previous weekly. I don't know yet. Price has a nice little trend line right there too. Let's look at it. Uh, I think I want to kind of look and see what price do with itself because I have a feeling it's falling. Actually, let me straighten up a little bit. All right. One, one. All right. Yeah. So price could break out to the upside and turn back around. So I want to see what it goes. If it goes back to the previous day that opened, then we looking to buy because that's what it's doing. But I want to see if price is pulling back to push into this sale, starting a new sale overall, if it's changing the trend or if it's because if you look at it for the hour, previous high to the previous low, then the overall high, right? You have a break of structure to a break of structure, but then this would be the low, and price closed below that low. So I would not be surprised if price continued to fall, but I want to see price. Yeah, I want to see price break below the previous weekly close, and then breaking to the pivot point on those time frames. So um, we're gonna wait. So I'm gonna put wait for this trade. We're not going to trade this trade for this week for as me, but just keep looking at it far as yourself goes. Pretty high, pretty slow. Yeah. So I think it's selling. Um, so the notes would be looking at looking for a possible strong sale. This would be essentially the beginning of a sale if and then the fact that price broke below the previous daily open, then that should be an opportunity for you to sell. But since I sell into a what is the point? What else want to say? Since I sell to 1.3, I wouldn't get the amount of room that I should have gotten. And because I see that it hasn't broken any of these pivot points, it hasn't shifted the or changed the direction of the market yet. So the beginning of a sale, if price breaks below the pivot points. Price is still above the pivot points on all time frames. I think except wait, ain't gonna say it on the week. Nope, they was above on the day. We above on the month. We above. We above. above the pivot points on all daily on all the time frames. So go back. Price is still above pivot point on all time frames. So we'll need price to break below. What is this? The previous weekly close. Price just pulled back and then goes back into the previous daily open, breaks back above the previous weekly high. Then we are looking for a price to go towards the previous daily close. Then you could probably buy up to the previous daily high, and then wait for price to break below the previous daily high. But in all, this is what we're looking for. If not, I'm going to notate that if we don't get that, we are continuing to look for buying opportunities with price turns around and break the previous daily high. All right. So this is the notes I got for that. I'm gonna make sure. So we're gonna move that over. So all in all, we're gonna wait. Like I said, I can get into a trade here, but it wouldn't secure me. Like deep down, it would make me feel some type of way. So I would like for price to break below the pivot point, break below the previous weekly close to get that sell versus that, because then it would switch a lot with the trend. The pivot points would also switch, and then you know what I'm saying, some other things will line up. You want to do more, go along with the trend until the trend gives you that shift. Um, and then if it doesn't give you what you want, you wait. So we traded last week off of gold, so I expect to go to do a nice little pullback for us to be able to trade this, right? Because yeah, because prices just turn around and just boom, 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 boom. Now we're back in it. Price break that previous daily high. Boom. Then we can get into the trade, right? Right. So we're going to slide this candle back over. I'm gonna go on the week, show you what that look like. Right, bam, boom, boom, boom. So right now, we good. All right, we good. You can't even see that pullback because you're still showing strong momentum. And that's why you don't want to jump in early. But anyway, this is what we got for gold. We already spent enough time on it. I gotta go do GBP, JPY, and JPY USD, and then we out of here. So let's go look at news before we do all that. Um, Google. All right. So we're gonna look at forexfactory.com. All right. So today is Wednesday. We're looking at GBP, JPY, and then we'll be looking at JPY USD. So I like to go back to Monday, and then we'll go all the way down. There was no JPY news, but then it was yellow for all the pairs on Monday. And then on Tuesday, JPY was yellow. USD as well is yellow and orange on Tuesday, so that's not bad. And then USD is yellow for all Tuesday. So JPY was good Tuesday, and USD was also good with a little bit of movement on Tuesday. On Wednesday, we have GBP in the yellow. GBP turned red, and then went back to yellow, and then all the rest of the pairs was like yellow, and then we have JPY yellow. So GBP, JPY, we have some red photos for JPY for today. So I don't know, when I see red photos, I kind of like Okay, no trading that trade for that on a Wednesday. Then we go back on a Thursday. We have GBP back in the yellow, GBP yellow, and there's no worry. And then we have JPY um, orange. So if you're going to trade JPY, I'm not being funny. It won't be a great time to trade it today. You can look at it today, but I would probably trade it tomorrow to get that trade in to push until Friday. Let's see what Friday look like. Nope, I wouldn't trade it at all this week actually, because if Friday was like yellow photos for JPY and GBP, that would be like, yeah, do it. So I'm not gonna trade GBP, JPY, because even though it goes from GBP is red at 1 a.m. on Friday, by the time we get back to the 2:15 p.m. Time, getting ready to get close to the market closing right at 4 p.m. So it's just too much. You're not going to be able to squeeze what you want to squeeze. I personally don't want to take that risk, but if you want to, go ahead. So we're going to go back to the chart. We'll come back to this chart when we get ready to look at JPY. So we're going to look at, lock that chart. All right, did we lock nines? A lot of times when we trade these trades, right? If we traded on last week, a lot of times we're not going to get those trades or a trade in that week. All right, we're just looking at it because it has to continue. It has to make its movements and see if it's going to correct or it's going to reverse. So that's what we'll be doing. So we're at GBP JPY. Let's go back to the week so we can see how that played out. If I don't think we traded that trade because JPY it has a relationship with me. Let's look at the notes because I'm not for sure. Oh, so the yellow is the month. Okay. Oh, bro. Oh, all right. So we have a previous month. Bro, and a previous month. Okay. Let's get into it. I want to read it from this point. So let's read and see the notes from last week, and then we're gonna push into what we're gonna have for this week. All right, almost done, man. Almost done. I'm gonna get better with Nas 100. I promise you. Trying to like talk about it. So, price did not break below the uh price did not break below the previous weekly or day time frame. Um, and I'm pretty sure it's saying we was talking about the pivot points. Um, uh, okay, so yeah, my bad. So price did not break below the previous weekly daily time frame. I'm pretty sure I was trying to say pivot points because we're on a daily, and I said the previous weekly at the time it didn't break below the previous weekly or previous weekly low. I'm not for sure I was trying to say price breaks below the previous monthly low. Price did that, so price did break below the previous monthly low. Uh, Price is not below the okay. I don't know for sure what this one was talking about, but anyway, price breaks below the previous monthly low. Price is not below the pivot point on the month time frame. Um, Price did not break below the previous daily open on the day time frame, and it still hasn't broke below the previous daily open, and we're on the day time frame. Price did not break above previous daily high on the 4 hour or the 1 hour. So we can look at the previous daily high on 4 hour. Price still hasn't broken above it. And then on the 1 hour, price still hasn't broken above it. All right. So, well, it kind of did here. All right. But looking at the notes, it didn't do that. Where did my notes go? Oh, here you go. So, um, Price can pull back to the previous weekly close. Okay. Or pivot point on the 1 hour and 4 hour to retest. Okay. Um, it can retest that area and break out of it. A price pullback and break above previous weekly high. What's my hold on. I think it's easier. Where's my previous weekly high? Let me take the previous weekly highs up here. All right, it's up there. If price breaks, where it go? If price breaks, pulls back and break above the previous weekly high, then we may be looking for at a shift on the 1 hour and 4 hour, but that didn't happen. Price break below previous weekly low. We're looking for a strong sell. Volume is showing selling pressure on the monthly, weekly, 4 hour, and 1 hour time frame, but it's not yet on the day time frame. All right, so those are the notes for that. Move those to the side somewhere up there. All right. Let's try to zoom this back. I don't know what's going on. On the day, once I find my placements. Okay. All right. So price breaks above this trend line and comes back and retests the previous monthly high, right? But as you see, this was a high. Where's my notes? I mean, my little arrow. High, followed by a high low, higher low, higher low. Even though it broke out that trend, it's still a higher low. All right. So let's continue to pull back a little bit. Um, yeah. All right. So let's look at the 1 hour. All right. So price necessarily hasn't broken out at daily high that we ever wanted to. On my pivot, it's above the pivot point, but I'm trying to figure out my brain. Previous weekly high, previous weekly low, price breakout. I think if price breakout, because it did switch here and went from selling to making lower highs instead of followed by lower lows. So price break down here, then we'll be looking at the followed by lower lows. But I don't want to be distracted because um I'm trying to figure like I want to say this. I don't fully okay, because I know how news is, I would not trade this because GBP and JPY is not good for Wednesday or Friday. So you wouldn't have no trade time to trade. So I could think this just could be part of like the spike. And then I would look forward to going back into the previous daily close to the previous daily open, dropping below the pivot points to sell. Because for some reason I'm still more along the sell. But if anything, this can pull back all the way up to this previous weekly high right here, breaking our previous monthly. What is this? Close. Yep. Previous monthly. Yeah. Close and then bound all the way back up to the previous weekly high. So because even here there was a nice trend, even though it broke out of it, it bought all the way up and then it broke down. And then there was some trading. I think that's a trend line we could connect here. Uh, it wouldn't be from here, it'd be one from here to like areas like this. And it wouldn't be areas like that. So if anything, the trade will be into this area like this. And that would be in a trend line. And then price broke out of that to make a higher low. That's how I'm seeing it. All right, this is how I'm seeing it. This is the higher high, followed by a higher low, and then price creating another higher low here. So I would like to see if price goes either above the previous daily high, right? Because you're seeing this and inverted head and shoulder happen. Here's the head, I mean the shoulder, the head, and the shoulder. Boom. Right? Price spot up, boom. So price, as you can see, is rejecting this previous weekly close right here. It touched it multiple times. Boom, boom, boom. It's not letting price break below it. Boom, boom. So price could definitely have this shift. Um, let's go to this candle right here a little bit more. Oh, there you go. Look, we got a candlestick here. Um, it broke that shift. The price break that daily high here, making it a nice trade up to the upside. Um, what I'm gonna do, let's go back to the news. I want to go with what my guest tells me, right? So we're gonna notate it. I don't want to spend that long. So my intuition, my intuition thoughts. There is a trade possibility, but news is not aligning. So we should stay out the trade, even though price has broken a little and closed above the pivot points on the 1 hour. I don't think it's 1 hour. It hasn't broken above before. Oh, that's the 4 hour. My bad. And then that's the four. So what about the one? We're above it for the one. And then the daily, we're not above it. So the 4 hour and the 1 hour, we are below pivot points on the, oh, we are below, prices below the previous daily high on the daily, the weekly, and the monthly. Nope. Yeah, we're above. The pivot point is above on the monthly, pivot point is above on the daily, and we are currently above pivot points on the, so the monthly and the monthly, weekly, on the 4 hour, we're above pivot points. Nope. And 1 hour. We are below pivot points from the four to the one. Are we below pivot points? One and then the four. Nope. On the 4 hour and 1 hour, price broke above the pivot points. Um, and like you see, you have that inverted head and shoulder, right? So I feel like there is something there, but because of news, I also feel like it could be a setup for me. Um, and then this is why I continue to build confidence because if I'm just not feeling that, then I don't feel that. But that's kind of what I'm feeling. So price could buy up like that, boom, and then come back into doing what I want to do. But if it's gonna break into the previous daily high, then I definitely think price would create that overall shift. It hadn't to me per se, because this is pullback, right? Um, yeah, well, it broke below the previous monthly low, and then it made this inverted head and shoulder when it made the previous weekly low. Coming back to retesting, and it broke above the previous weekly low, monthly low. So I think price can definitely buy up to this pivot point. But I still think it's going to sell. So me personally, I'm not going to get into that trade. I'm not going to find opportunity to get in that trade. That's what I'm looking at right now because I am going my intuition. Everything that is good is not always what is aligned, basically. So we're gonna take a look at it because I want to go more for this sale, right? Previous monthly high. The previous weekly high is not as high, so it'll be a higher low. And then the previous daily high wouldn't be as high, so it'll be another higher low. So price is creating higher low followed by higher low. And then so I feel like there's a shift that has happened already. But and it's happened way back here. I want price to break below the yeah. Cause let me see. Yeah, because price come back from here, break it to the previous daily close, dropping below the previous that pivot point here. Boom, we can start looking into it. That, but for some reason, I just feel like it's a fake out, so I'm not gonna do it. We're gonna move on. I already spent enough time on this chart. I'm not too confident on it, so we're gonna move to JBY USD. Um, as you can see, I put this trade in for the group, the people that like to do risk, and we took into this trade. Boom, took profit, and then price turned around and pulled back into our previous daily high, previous day's close to retest, right? So that trade took profit. We're gonna look at it for as the week goes. Gonna read the notes. Damn money makers, I'm out of here. All right, out of here. So I appreciate you guys for being here with me because there's gonna be times in your journey you don't know what you're doing. Like I feel like there are a lot, even though, and I would tell my wife this. I learned a lot and made a lot knowing nothing, but it seemed like now I know stuff. I, it's just a struggle um to be consistent. So our last notes were on the 4 hour time frame, price breaks above the previous daily high. And as you can see, we're on the weekly and prices above the previous daily high. All right. Volume indicators showing buying pressure on the 4 hour and the 1 hour time frame. Price breaks above strong pivot point on the weekly, the daily, the 4, and the 1. So We're above these strong pivot points, so let's drop down to the day. As you can see, price broke above that previous daily high. We got into the trade right here. We profited the trade. Now price is broken above the previous weekly high. And it pulled back. We want my pivot points. I'm not for sure. Well, they're above. I'm not gonna say they're not for sure. Um, I'm trying to see. Oh, yeah, I see why I said this is a nice buy. Let's do this. It's not as. I don't really like that one. It has I touch points. This one has more. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we drop back down to there. Okay. Yeah. So we're having a nice. This will be our first resistant level, and then we want to see price break above that resistant level, and we have a nice little upside to the buy. Um, if all right, I'm not gonna say that. Since JPY news was so ugly, um, we're not necessarily trading it because, like I said, news was so ugly. So we're going to delete everything that you see now, and then we're going to watch and see how the market plays out, right? So we was able to profit on that trade, which is very good. I'm trying to figure out what I do. What did I do? Oh, let me slide this in just a teeny bit. All right. We're gonna go to the week, and then we're going to delete everything. All right. So we're gonna delete everything on the week. The month is the orange, so we're not gonna touch the month. So we're just gonna delete everything. The red, delete it. And then the daily, boom, boom. Um, as you can see, if you go back and look at the trades, like the trades play out. Like you have some when you don't believe in yourself, they going against you. If you get in too early on the entry, it go against you. But majority of the time, this strategy for me plays out. Now, again, my strategy is not going to work for you off the bat. No strategies that somebody else has built is going to work for you. But you can find some that you can, spin off of. I've like the I know that this is like the meat and potatoes, right? So um I want to be able to help you expand. All right. Some people don't use these candlesticks like that. So they're holding these trades for a long period of time. I have been profitable holding trades for, I don't know, like those period of times. Uh, we got in there. So I just want to move this. All right. It was a 3-1. So there we go. All right. So we have deleted. Oh, no. The previous high, which is a red. We need to delete that. It got to go. It has to go. All right. So now we're going to go back to the week and we're going to mark the week. So we know for this specific candle, we're above, for the week, we are above the pivot point. So that give us some nice strong momentum. We're not going to work off the candle for this week. We're going to work off the candle for last week, so April 14th. So we're going to get rid of the pivot points right now, move into that candle, and all we're going to do is mark it. Simple. We're just going to mark it. Oh, I let it be purple this time. I like purple. So we're going to mark the opening of this candle. As you can see, there's no wick, so there's no low for this candle. Let me get a little closer. All right. We're going to mark it as the previous the previous weekly open. And then you have a previous weekly open. I mean, close, my bad. All right. And then we have a high. So we're going to mark a trend, horizontal ray with the purple. And then we're going to mark it as the previous weekly high. All right. So now we're going to mark down to the previous daily. And so since the red candlestick is the candle for today, we're going to move into the candle for um, yesterday. Sorry. Um, so we're going to do, let's do a, um, uh, I guess we could do a different shade of blue. We'll put it on this candle here. I think we broke into the previous monthly high, and then price brought back down. And then we're gonna clone it, move it down to the open. All right. So I'm gonna label it previous daily open. Previous daily close. Wait, that's not it. I'm looking at the wrong candle. It is here. There you go. Sorry about that. There you go. Previous daily close, my bad. And then we have a high, which is right there. Turn that bad boy blue. And then we're going to type it. Previous daily high. All right. So in order for price to buy, we have to go into the previous daily high. And in order for price to sell, we want it to break below the previous daily open. But as you can see, we're right here on the, what is this, the monthly close, the weekly close, the previous weekly close. So I want to see if price actually break into the previous weekly close and solidify it below it. Let's turn on our volume indicator. Where's the volume? Not a volume. The pivot point. Um, The pivot point is way up here. So there's the previous high, previous low. Price fall all the way back up. So price can pull back all the way down to this previous weekly open because that's where they're low. It can do a shallow pullback, which means it doesn't pull all the way back that low. And you do a medium pullback. And this is a good example from what I was saying earlier about the pullbacks. So you have a shadow, you have shallow, a medium, and a deep. So price, I'm just gonna put it right here so it don't affect anything. So price pullback to the previous weekly close or something like this. This would be a shallow pullback. If price pullback something like this in the middle, it will be a medium pullback or yeah, and then price pull all the way back to the previous, which is like this, will be a deep pullback. You don't, I mean, when the pullback started going to these lanes like this, then it switches the trend. So I mean, it switches or change the character of the market. So I probably said that backwards earlier, but pay me no mind. All right. So the main things we're paying attention to are these key areas. All right. On the last one, so bear with me. Boom, boom, boom. Previous high, previous low. We're taking notes. Excuse me. And then it's the previous low. It's the high, it's the low high. The pivot point, price shot all the way up, creating a higher high, and it pulled back, right? So let's see how far this pulled back. 4 hour, it dropped below the previous daily open, but didn't push into that weekly close. Okay. But it hasn't dropped below pivot point yet. High, low, high, high, low, high, low. And it's so price is bouncing off the previous daily open and done over time. So it could definitely go into a sale. So I want to see price break clearly below previous daily open, like making this push, and then breaking below the pivot point. If it does not give me that, I'm gonna look for price to go back a bit to try to break the daily high. And if it does do that, then we'll be looking for a buy. Because I know where JPY USD is at, and I know the overall of this trend, I would like to catch is the buy, right? Price can pull up to here, and boom, still turns. So if price pull up to at least this will be a shallow. I don't know how I explained it the first time. So this will be a shallow. Let me stop going fast with my words and say what I'm going to say. And like I said, pay attention to the lesson because I'll break it down. Because when I get on this, I get nervous and I start going backwards. So, all right. All right. So the price start pulling back on this trade. Boom, pull back. Where it go? Well, high, low, and then price pull back to previous high. This previous low. All right. So the price that pulled back here, this would have been it's like a shallow price pullback into here, it'd be the medium. And if the high low is way down here, that would be a deep pullback. And a deep pullback is when price pulls back to that previous low like this. So this price can pull back like this, and it has the opportunity to do so, and I think it will. This is all a pullback. This could be considered a deep pullback for it to push into the upside, right? So we want to keep that. Or price can just do what it do, sell. Um, I think it's gonna buy because it has multiple touch points in the past. Um, but I would like to see what it's gonna do because it does break below this previous daily open, goes to the previous weekly close. Price will definitely pull all the way back and leads to the previous monthly high or the previous weekly open. So I would just want to watch this trade. Um, We are above pivot points. And then, yeah. Let me go do this real quick. Oh, this is supposed to be purple. Every time I don't change this to the color it's supposed to be, it throws me off. All right, purple. On the higher time frames, like the 4 hour, it didn't break below the previous daily open. Let actually to help out, let's look at the volume. The volume is showing selling pressure for the 4 hour. Uh, it was by on the day. Um, it's not showing much anything on the day. For the 1 hour, selling pressure, selling pressure. So we could be looking at a pullback. I want to go with the buy, and because news is not going the way I want to, um, I'm not gonna really get into the trade. So my main thing I'm gonna write for this trade is that news suck. All right. So we'd like to see what it do moving forward. Um, so we're just gonna type that there. News is not good. So we will not be trading this trade. Um, if price breaks above previous daily high on 4 hour, 1 hour could be looking at a, a sell. We are looking for a buy. So if let price play out, opportunity. All right. So I'm gonna leave that right there. That's kind of what my intuition is telling me. I will write these down in my notes as I go back. But yeah, because at a trend line, two, three. Because if you do like this, it breaks into, you know. Oh yeah, so it didn't break. So that was a nice trend. One, two, three, four. Yeah. So the price break below this trend line, and this trend line seems to be valid on multiple time frames. Yeah, it just this multiple times, so it'd be on a little run, but I don't know. I don't really like the trade, so I'm not gonna trade it. But I do think it's making like this W formation, boom, boom, and then if it comes back up to here, breaking above this area right here, then pull. We should definitely push into that trade. I don't know why this blue. This is supposed to be blue. So yeah, I'm going to watch this trade because I don't really like what it's going, but I'm looking more for the buy. So I'm gonna let price play out. And man, sometimes I don't be knowing what price is doing. And let you see, I've been here for hours, man, but we're here for like an hour and some change. I am trying my best to get better with like putting everything back down in 30 minutes. But as you can see, I want to continue to show you guys how to set it up. So, like I said, I got the subscription, so I will be well, I had the subscription. I just upped my subscription. So we'll be able to replay those things and then I'll show you how to back test and all that stuff. So be tapped in, okay? My next thing I'm gonna drop will be trend lines. I'm gonna talk about that. Support and resistance, I'll talk about that. And some tips and tools that you can use along with PDF that you can have that'll help you out. I am also working on a list of educators you can tap into other than just me and my journey. If you would like for me to uh, mentor you, I'm definitely happy to do so. We have had 100% conversion rate into our academy, Church State Academy. We're literally taking all of that, put it onto YouTube, which is now hitting Churches Academy. And Forex is stupid. So we're taking the academy, putting it in there, showing you guys how we how we did it and how I break this down to others along with tips and tricks and things that is not in the academy. So you kind of get like the whole white phase and then boom, other added things to the white phase. But if you want the mentorship just like people did, you have to hit me up in my email below, hit me up on our Facebook community and it'll be below. And that's all I got for you. If you don't have any questions, again, that's all right. I am here so many times, man. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, but I do. And so I'm just showing you guys how I continue to believe in myself, showing you guys my journey. And like I said, the last few years, I have started over. So we have to like, boom, put it out there. So when I think I know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing. When I think I do know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm doing. So, I'm going back and forth. At the end of the day, I said, and you're going to say,
Forex is stupid.
I don't care if it's stocks, cryptos, commodities, whatever. Some point of time, you're going to say it's stupid because there's no copy and paste that's going to make you a millionaire. There's no robot that's going to make you a billionaire. At every point in time, if you're depending on somebody else, as far as like how to get the points to get into that down to the T, then you're gambling. You have a whole fallacy. It's just a dream. And you can get famous off that dream. You can have, but what's the real and what is not the real? What's the meat of potatoes and what's the size? So I'm gonna give you the meat of potatoes. I'm gonna give you the size. And just tap in with me with the mentorship. All right. So I gotta go. I spent enough time on this thing already. And yeah, see you later. Peace.